Good evening, our beautiful viewers. Welcome to Bay Waves. This is a radio that is brought to you by young African youth that has came together to build a better Africa. My name is George, and I'm gonna be your host for today. And yeah, I'm only alone. I'm alone today, but then that's not a train smash. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and yeah, just make sure that you get to invite your friends and your family members to tune in, so that we can get the show running and get to talk about these important conversations that we have on this show. So today we're gonna be talking about property, having to find an ideal home for yourself or for your family, and also renting, right? So that's the whole motion of today. And yeah, so there's a lot of aspects that one needs to look into when they, looking for a home. And I'm not an expert myself. I'm also, one of those people who are still learning about the property market. But then today we're just gonna be going through, the the basics of what one should look out for. And some certain things can be basic for someone, but then for someone out there it might not. So hence we're bringing this topic today on the show so that we can try to enlighten each other. And hopefully next time we're gonna make sure that we have someone who's an expert, so that we can really go into details as to what you should really get to look out for when you are looking for a home or when you are renting out. But for now, let's just touch bases and talk about the things that they are basic. Since while I'm not an expert, I got to do a little research of my own and try to bring it to you guys so that we can try to engage about these things and try to enlighten each other. So so there's important aspects and also technical aspects, if I may put it that way, that one needs to look out for when they are looking for a home. So I've compiled a list of the important aspects that one needs to get to look at when they looking for a home. And the first point that I got to find is that you need to make sure that you get to look at your budget. Like budget, it's always on top of the list. If you are to buy anything, you always have to consider budget. So budget is on top of the list. So you usually, when you get to go through this process of having to buy a home, it will be advisable to go to to the bank or someone who's a financial aspect to say, this is the amount of money that I get annually and I'm looking for a house. So based on this much money that we get I get to receive annually, what kind of house can I get? Because we are all ambitious. We want beautiful homes, we want big mansions, but then you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start somewhere, and you have to consider your pockets as to how much you have. And yeah, just try to work with that. So you need to look at how much money you have, because for example, with me, I cannot say I want a mansion. I mean, I don't even afford to buy a mere flat that has 2 rooms. So those are the kind of things that you need to consider if you are to buy yourself a home. You need to check, okay, when I get to buy this house, will I be able to pay it monthly and also be able to survive? And that's what we mean when we get to say you need to consider the budget as the main thing before you get to say, you are going for house hunting. I mean, like, it's okay because I also sometimes get to find myself, looking at houses, and sometimes you get to see these beautiful houses. They go at the price double 5 million, 2 million, and they're really beautiful. And we like myself, I really do love those homes, and I get to be like, someday, just someday, um, I'm gonna buy myself that. But then you gotta be realistic. As much as you get to dream, you get to be ambitious, you need to sometimes come back to reality, and adjust things so that you can live as a less stressful life, because stress will always be there, especially when it comes to having to say you want to buy yourself a house. So, to those who just tuned in, you are listening to Bay Waves. This is the radio that is brought to you by the youth of Africa that came together to build a better Africa. So we are really grateful for you having to tune in and be here with us, and we really do encourage you to invite your friends and have them come here, to engage with us as we get to talk about things that will help us to build each other, for a better Africa. Um, if you just tuned in, we are talking about property today. That's the main topic of today, and we are looking more into having to buy a home or having to rent out, a place to stay as a home. So right now, I just addressed a point of what you should really look out for when you are to buy a home. And the first point that I just spoken about is budget, right? You need to look out for your budget and make sure that you really do afford having to buy a certain house. I mean, as much as you'd love those beautiful houses like myself, you need to, be realistic with your pockets. And the second point that is one of the important aspects that you really need to look out for when you are to buy a home is levy rates, right? I'm not going to go into a definition that will have, um, the audience confused, because I'm also not an aspect. Remember that. I just need to put that out there as a disclaimer to say I'm not an aspect, but then I'm going to touch bases on the things that they are more basic and they're easily accessible on reliable um, website where you can really source information and get to make your own research. So this is based on my own research from reliable sources. And so, yeah, so the second one, like I said, it's levy rates. So I said I'm going to put this thing as simple as possible so that each and everyone can understand. Right, levy rates just simply means the rates that, okay, let me try to put it this way because I can hear myself, but I'm gonna also get myself confused. There's certain places that when you get to stay in, for instance, if you're staying in a suburb, you're gonna have something that is called a levy rate, and that's the rate for water, electricity, having to maintain the place. There's places where they get to have dustbin outside. So all of those things you get to pay for them. Unlike, I'm from Limpopo, I'm from Jane First. We don't have those kind of things. So if you are someone who's looking into buying homes and you feel like levy rates is something that is not within your budget, because if you are to buy a house and you're going to buy it on, because it's really not the privilege that everyone has to buy a house cash. But then if you are to buy a house with monthly installments. If it's levy, it doesn't, kind of sit well with the budget that you have for your monthly installments, then just try to, go there. Jane Fair, oh no, there's places where they get to. Bomasemola, Bompanam, those kind of places. There we don't have such, we don't have levy rates. Electricity is just prepaid. You don't get to pay municipality fees. You don't get to pay for water. You don't get to pay for all those extra services. But then if you want to reside or Midrand or Santane, all those nice places, just know that you're gonna be faced with such charges. So that's what we mean when we get to say levy rates. So when you are looking for a house, look into your, like I said, look into your budget, and also, just try to compare. If I'm to buy a house, does the levy rate of where I'm trying to reside in, compatible with the kind of income that I have? So, we all have those. We all, like I said, I also have an ambition of someday having to own a mansion, but I still have to take all those things into account to say, whenever I get to move into such a place, at least for a period of 5 years, like that's the standard that I've set for myself to say, at least if I'm to move into this kind of a place that have levy rates and so forth, because I'm honestly not planning to, to, have a mansion in Jane first, because I want to have a place where I can really call home. And when I get there, get to have the essence of like, now I'm home, just get the home feel. So I don't want to, if I'm to say I want to mention, I wouldn't really want to put it there at home. So I wanted to be the sites where they get to pay those levy rates, even though, they might kind of do, a damage to your finances. But then I want to position myself in an instance where, levy rates isn't really much of an issue. So I also have the ambition of staying there, get to wake up on a beautiful balcony, those kind of vibes. Those are just dreams and ambitions. So that's another factor that you really need to consider when you get to look for a home. Like I said, there's places like there's places where there's levy rates, there's places where there isn't levy rates. And just to put it out there, it's a disclaimer, I'm not an estate professional, and everything that I'm saying here is based on my own research from trusted um, research pages that you can just simply visit and just do your own research. So I'm just simply touching bases, and like I said, I'm hoping that we're gonna have a specialist who's really going to help us through, to go more into details about this levy raise stuff, because they know better than me, and I'm also looking forward to that day where we get to have someone who's a professional in that field, so that I can also be well informed. So just make sure that you always tune in every Tuesday. Always should make sure that you invite your friends and family to tune into Bay Waves, and let's get to teach each other these things and get to boom South Africa. I mean, boom Africa for the better. So another thing that I've also got to discover is that one needs to look out for what we call commute. So what is commute? Okay, let me break it down like this. Whenever you are to buy a home, right, you need to take into consideration factors like location. You cannot just say, you go to the market where they sell houses, and then they get to show you this house where it's absolutely, separated from everything. Like it's just there. There's no shopping complex, there's no schools around. I mean, there's those kind of people who love that kind of peace, but then I mean, for our generation, and I believe that even for people who are above me, they'd like to stay in places where there's accessibility of things. So when we talk about commute, we just simply talk about the location of where you want to buy your home, having to take into consideration that that place is nearby your workplace, or it's nearby, say you have kids, it's nearby schools, or it's also nearby a shopping complex, because those are one of the aspects that you really need to look out for when you are to buy a home, because you cannot have um, a house that is far away from schools, and every time your kids have to wake up very early in the morning, so that they can travel to school, or even yourself, you have to wake up very early in the morning so that you can just get to work on time. And just accessibility of other stuff, shopping complex, you cannot drive about 10 kilometers to just go and buy bread. So those are other factors that you really need to consider, and that's what we mean when we get to talk about commute, right? And I know, I mean, Magaeng, there's those places where the commute is kind of shaky, yana, but then those important ones, they are there. For instance, schools, like they always make sure they have houses that are located near schools, near hospitals. And this also one of the most important one. Hospitals, like you cannot get sick, then we have to travel like 30 to 40 kilometers to get you to a hospital, because you just chose to put your home far away from things. So those are just the important aspects that you need to look out for. Like I was saying, Magaeng, we do have those areas where Lore, they are far from hospitals, they are far from shopping complex. But then that's what actually get to distinguish, but let me just say variety when it comes to, locations of homes, because uh, the location also gets to contribute um, to the price of the home that you're buying. I mean, for instance, if you are to buy a home that was just nearby Union Building, they're gonna charge you for that. If you are to buy a house that is near a hospital, is near a mall, especially in the urban areas, they're gonna charge you for those things. And so those are the things that you need to consider. As much as they're gonna charge you, they're also gonna be beneficial for you. So we spoke about levy raise, and the levies also get to contribute to such factors to say, this is the kind of area that has 1 2 3. Just the accessibility of things can also contribute to the amount that you are going to spend in having to buy either cash or with monthly installments. So those are just uh, the aspect that you need to follow. So it is a chain that is interconnected, because it boils down from budget to levies and to commute. There's a link that get to join each and every one of those. And another one that we have on the important aspects when you are looking for a home is safety of the neighborhood. South Africa has the highest rate of crime, right? And it tends to make it more like each and every area is no longer safe. But then there's those areas that are better, right? Because even myself, I don't think I've been in Pretoria for how long now? I think it's been 5 years, and Pretoria is great, man. It's good, it's all chilled, but then there's those parts of Pretoria, of which I don't want to call by names, because I might be, crushing somebody's dream out there because they get to see it as an ideal place for them to build a family, to build a house, and So for me, there's certain locations in terms of safety in Pretoria. I wouldn't even dare go there and say I want to buy a house there. As much as they get to say the house is cheap, I cannot go there and buy that house and say it's my home. Like my home, no. I don't think it's something that I would do in terms of having to consider the fact that the safety it's really, really, really shaky, because you don't want to stay in a place where, you know, just imagine this situation. You are paying for a house, like you're paying a significant amount from your salary for a certain house, and yet like you get to have regular break-ins. So you need to constantly be replacing the things that are being stolen in your house because of the safety of that environment. It's just not, ideal. So it's also going to put a constraint to your finances. So hence, I get to say it all boils down to budget, right? You can say, I have this much money, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to buy furniture. And then the next thing, boom, they get to steal your cars, they get to steal your furniture. You need a car to get to work. Now you have to pull out some certain money so that you can, those kind of issues. So just put yourself in a situation where that whenever you are considering to buy a home, you really you have really made sure that the safety of that place is, even if it's not top notch. I mean, in South Africa, there's no place that you can really say it's 100% guaranteed of safety, but then just try to look out for those that are better in terms of safety. I see here I have you know, should I say a guest or a co-host, Tahatsu. Tahatsu, can you come in and just greet in the audience?
Good, good afternoon, guys. I'm sorry for being late. Hello, John.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's
Am I
it's it's
audible enough?
February, so it's a month. Yes, you are audible. You are audible. It's a month of love. It's February, so we will forgive you. We will forgive you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I hear you talking about looking at certain things when you're buying a house. So what should I look for? Because you're talking in terms of suburbs. Like I understand I have to be closer to the shopping complex. I have to be closer to schools. I have to be closer. Okay, then what do I do? Like what? How does that work?
Okay, so based on my research, like usually this is what happens when it comes to rural areas. Like there's not really much of people who are selling homes in the rural area. So in terms of that, you just really need to look for a stand, and how you get to go about it. Unlike here, where you should go through the agents, the property of which you're still going to touch base on that. You need to go to see the key. And I'd like to, build a home there. And then they'll just get, and funny enough, the lens, they are very cheap. I remember when my mother got to buy stand, was the regular 700, something that you'll never ever find in the places that we stay in Pretoria. So I'd really think having to stay Magaeng is also kind of ideal in terms of having to save money, because if you are to buy land in Pretoria, you surely pay or you can really buy a house just buying a stand. So yeah, if so, do you consider having to stay high? I mean, like, high.
But guys, it's less much stressful. Ko high. You like you can miss rent. Saga. So I've bought the land. I'm gonna miss rent. I wanna extra levies. Like the only extra costs that are gonna come with me owning the land is occupying the land, like building a house or whatever that I'll be using the land for. I definitely would want to be at home, but there are so many disadvantages again at home because St. Peter's it's too far, Jane First Hospital is too far, and then we don't even have proper schools, the infrastructure is just But again, it's too expensive living in the suburbs. So really, I think it just goes with what you really want and how far your budget can stretch.
Yeah, like I said, like it always boils down to budget, unless if you swear lotto. I mean, even though if you swear lotto, like it don't really have to sustain you a lifetime if you have to buy a house for the suburb. So it is there all right, you know that you don't have to pay levies. So if you build a house, you know, right, the rest of money that is left, it's left there. Like you're not going to do anything with it. But then when you go to the suburbs, you need to make budget for the levies. You need to make budgets just for a whole lot of things. So yeah, let me just remind our audience that they are tuning into Bay Waves. This is a radio that is brought to you by African youth to build a better Africa for the future generations. So, Takazo, just tell me this: like, when haven't you just really got to see yourself through the internet and saying this is the ideal house that I want to have? Because with me, I think I thought the ambition was just being dreaming too much. But then I love this house. It's like the double story, three story, something. I really do love those. But then also at the same time, I have to account what the costs, have to come with those things. But then, like, for ambition's sake, for a dream's sake, don't you have, say, what I want to stay there?
I have like 5 houses. I have like 16 cars. They are in my dreams though. But I visit property 24 all the time, and I'm saving bit by bit. There, I'm trying to save. One day I'm gonna get there. I think it helps. It helps with if ever I get lotto or if ever I become the rich housewife that I'm supposed to be, like what amount of money am I looking at to own this property? It's giving ambition. One or the other, we're gonna own houses, we're gonna own states. So I might as well have a plan now. It's a culture that I like that's going on, that we always claim houses on property 24. We can even comment whether this kitchen is too small for this amount of money. It's good practice, because then when you have decided on buying, you already know how much you're spending on the house, how you already know which agency you're going to use. You already know kind of a lot of stuff, rather than just sitting or rather think it till you make it.
That's true. Hey, let me just go through other aspects that really we need to consider, because I've spoken about the important aspects that one really have to look out for when they're looking for to buy a house. Because I spoke about budget, I spoke about levy rates, I spoke about commute, I spoke about neighborhood safety. So right now, let's just dwell more into the technical aspects. And I think this is the topic too much, because here we get to speak about the size of the house, mainly about the number of bedrooms, the size of the kitchen, the size of the yard, and also the exterior, the interior design. So tell me, when I talk, like, what's the ideal number of bedrooms would you like to have in your own house?
I want 5 bedrooms, you guys.
5 bedrooms, like same as me, cause it, like 5, I feel like it's really ideal.
And I still, in a way, I still want to add to that 5, because I want a big house. My problem is that I want a big house, I want a big yard, costing 700,000. That's my problem.
Oh, this is not possible anyway. It's not possible. Yeah. It's the thought that matters again. So let's talk about that again. Like this thing, it's always a factor for women. If you are to go into the house, maybe you're doing house scouting. The first thing that they would really like to look into, it's a kitchen. Like, does that also, are you that woman who get to have the essence of my house must have this kind of a kitchen?
Definitely. We call the kitchen the heart of the home. If the kitchen is bad, then what about the bedrooms? What about the bathroom? As much as I do not like being in the kitchen, I like having a big kitchen. I like having like an open plan kind of a kitchen. Like kitchen, let it not be cramped. Let it be open. Like, do you understand? Like, a kitchen is one of the most important rooms in the house, because either way I'll be spending most of my time in there, so it must be really warm, it must be nice, it must be open, it must be big enough, and just like, guys, kitchen is important. There was this house that they listed, and 80% of the girls or women that were commenting on there, they were just complaining that the kitchen is too small. And it's always the case with every house. That if I think to the people who are selling houses, you are more to get a buyer if the kitchen is more bigger. That's what I've realized on the socials.
That's true. And I feel like this is why as men, we really need women in our lives, because we really don't care much about the kitchens, to be honest. Because as long as we get to, because I'll tell you about me, if I'm to really look out for my dream house, to say right now I want to buy a house, one thing that I want for sure in my house is a man cave, and that's something that women don't care about. And even because they really don't care much about it, because it's really something that doesn't, like, it doesn't get to be presented first when someone gets to get into your home. So hence it's really necessary to have women, because now for me it's really not the heart of a home, but then to think of it, it is true, and it's also, like you said, it's a selling point. It's a selling point when you're thinking about long-term goals. And let me just get to tell our viewers to say, engage with us in the comment section. I have Tahatso on the backup right now. She'll get to help me to read those comments. Just tell us about your ideal home, as to what is it that you really from a dreaming perspective, right? What is it that you'd like your house to have? Because it is the thought that matters, because I can just keep having it. Like, I always listen to that guy. That guy will make you feel like like you're already there. You're already there. So just try to think about those things, and like you said, it's also forming part of your future plans as you get to think about these things. So make sure that you engage with us in the comment section. Make sure that you get to invite your friends, your family, all the people that are there on the WhatsApp, on the Facebook, to engage with us. And let's have this beautiful conversation. And again, disclaimer, and also just to remind you what we're talking about today. We are talking about having to find a property, having to find a home that's really ideal for you, having to take into consideration the important aspects, so that you don't get to be financially strained. So the disclaimer is that me and Tahazu, we are not the professionals, and we're just hoping that next time when we meet here, we'll have someone who's really the guru and the professional about this thing, so that we can really get to go more into details as to what is a levy, how do you go into all the process of having to buy a house. But then through the little research that we have made, we're just going to touch bases, because I said before, as much as something it might be basic to you, it might not be basic to someone else. So that's what we're trying to do on the show right now. So another important factor that we're going to be looking at is the estate agencies, right? So it means we have transitioned. Thank you for having to bring that one. Or how do you go about in having to look for a place, because having to speak about estate agencies, it doesn't really cater for those kind of areas. So in this one, we're going to talk particularly in how to avoid being scammed. So I did this research from a business tech, and they've given me these beautiful points, because like scam or no, but people are getting rich, getting scam. Like this thing that has been trending last week, but get Tinder swindler. Like you just simply scam people to make yourself rich, of which is really something that we're trying to help each other to not be victims of, because some people kill themselves. Imagine having to spend, a lot of years where I'm save child pension, I would retire what I can do, someone just get to scam me. Like with the and someone would definitely get to hang themselves. So hence we're bringing this topic today, just to highlight it, just to highlight the important factors just to look out for when you're going to buy yourself a property, just to avoid those kind of scams. So the first one that they go to mention is that if the price looks too good to be truth, it is probably too good. Because like something 700 something, you can never find that. And then you go to this website, it's residing in something triple story house in a the swimming pool to the multiple balconies in all the jacuzzi, then about 700,000. Like you need to question yourself when it comes to that, or like something like, and there's one thing that desperation. Sometimes you get to think, okay, my dream location is something, and I'm seeing this thing, but 700,000, and already now on my budget can have 900, and then you don't go into research and having to research about this place, and then you call these people and they just gonna scam you your money. Like Tahaji, imagine having.
And this cannot move very smoothly, right? You can just tell by the amount of people who, I don't know if you're on Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. There are a lot of people that come online to try and blast someone for scamming them. Guys, you definitely, it starts with the smaller things. You can't get an iPhone XR 5,000 and think, yeah, this is a good deal. You can't. Exactly. Like you can't. If you see your employer is way too big and price like rather even too expensive to your liking than even too cheap.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're gonna get saved.
Yeah, and that one thing that people should really get to look into, like try to compare the prices. For instance, I'm just not sure, but then okay, with houses, okay, I'm gonna give an example. If you are to buy a car when go to website ya Toyota o check okay, Toyota or Benz like on their website, how much does it cost? Because they were to 100 kilometers, but get 2 million, give it class. Then you go to Facebook market. Our Facebook market, like 200,000 then the next thing you are a victim, you're crying. So just make sure to look out for those things. But I say it says a lot about the that product having to be legit, especially like you cannot, especially the location speaks a lot about the pricing of the house. Like just make sure in terms of house, let me give this example. Try to check on multiple sites, right? Because it does happen sometimes, or a certain house is listed for property 24, is listed so try to compare the prices based on the location already. Just on this website, the cost of guy on this, so that you can just really get to have the idea as to how much does this kind of a house that I'm really looking for can cost before you get to fall in the trap of being a victim of scammers. And another point,
before you move, normalize reading reviews, guys. Like, don't be lazy to go through all the reviews. Read all of them. If you find maybe J5 about complain, I think that's enough to leave that person alone. Because like, don't stop thinking when you are special in a way. To that person, you're not special. So you're just another person. If you see the ratings are low, there are a lot of people complaining about even the stuff that you think are just small. Take them into consideration. Like, people are really smart out there, and then you find an agent multiple accounts to create reviews for themselves. Like, when you go onto this website, okay, I'm gonna look at houses that have over maybe 250 reviews, and then that's when I'm gonna start considering them. If you find an agency in maybe 100 reviews, automatically that's giving shady vibes, because okay, why so low? Rather go for someone who's well known, or this person deals in this. You are less likely to be scammed in that way.
That's true. And you mentioned an important thing. Like, these scammers, they're getting smart when it comes more reviewing. Because someone, they don't mind doing the Facebook account or whatever account they and get to comment just to make the reviews, because these people, scammers are very smart people. Like, they are really, like, they have brains, like, honestly, and they get to evolve with the system. When we try to study this thing, they also come up with other. So just always make sure to make research why until you get to be sure this thing is really legit. So to our second point that you really need to look out for to avoid these scams, business tech, they highlighted the fact that if the email sounds strange, that should be an alarm to you, because I cannot be someone who deals with selling the property, and then I need to have a business email. I need to have a business website where I get to do all of my stuff. But then, black, then you go to a certain, whatever site that you have went to, and then you see this beautiful house, then you try to contact the person, right? When you go to contact details, email address at Gmail is wrong. Like, how can you really use a free email address while you're running a legit business? Like, a business needs to be more presentable, and those are other aspects that get to be a setting point or something that gets to make the people who are watching worry, okay, this thing, it's really legit, because the imaging, they're really dodgy. And also the contacts, there must be an office number. Like, I know right now we have transitioned into, a lot of businesses, I can see they have WhatsApp numbers, but then just make sure you really get to evaluate those things before you can just make any rushed decisions. Then you have this person, and even into emails, a person who's a professional, the way they structure their email, you see, or okay, now I'm talking to someone who's a professional. I mean, you cannot send a quotation to about a house, then the person replies you on only the grammatical error 1000, and you're like, it's really this something that is legit. So those are just some of the things that you really need to look out for. So Tarazo, just keep out on the lookout for me, on the comment section. If there's any comments, just bring them through. While you're still going to check on that, let's just go to our third point. According to Business Tag, it also says that the agent won't show you the property if you are okay. It says that if you ask to see the property and they claim it's impossible by the agency, it's probably a fake listing. Because look, someone who's in business, right, and selling something, they cannot sell you something that you cannot see. They cannot sell you something that you cannot touch. So right now you see this beautiful house and you say, I want to buy this house. Then when you contact the person, they tell you, no, you cannot see this house. No, I'm busy doing 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. It's fake. Like there's 99.9% error rate. That thing, it's really fake. So make sure you get to buy something that you really see and you are able to evaluate. Then when it's time for you to get to go and see the property and they get to tell you other stories. So those are just that is just one of the points that you really need to look out for. And the other one, it says that avoid dodgy websites. Avoid dodgy websites. Facebook market when like like don't you have a friend
who I judge all the time? This friend loves buying things on Facebook market, but luckily he is smart enough to maneuver around it. Guys, with Facebook market, you do not send money before you meet up with the person and they give you your things. Exactly. You don't do that. Mara, wrong. If the panel on Facebook market, what's wrong? Like no, wrong. And with the contact details thing, these people are moving smart, guys. Like there was a space where they were discussing about how a person managed to scam pilots, managed to scam like important people. Guys, do your background checks. Become an FBI. Find out every little bit of information about that person's business that they're claiming. And then with the WhatsApp thing, guys, I love technology, but in a way, it's now working against us. Like I understand there's a WhatsApp business but it's kind of shady if you don't reply your text at 10, get WhatsApp business, because what are we gonna talk about at 10 p.m.? Business day is 2020, professionalism in there. And then and the way a professional email is structured. My fellow guys, they usually put their post for okay, kind regards Team Nageti, head of communications at George W. whatever, and then there's never their personal number there. There's never their personal number. It's always the office number. So it a little bit shady. Like the best thing you can do for yourself is go onto trusted websites. Like people, technology is so easy to learn that even now I can just create a website and whatnot. But be smart enough to know things are just not adding up. Like when you guys with your money, you're risking your money, you're risking your tears, blood, and sweat. Like you're risking a lot of things. So take the time to actually thoroughly do research on what you want to buy. You do not want to lose 50,000 just because you doubted yourself. Like if something is dodgy, deep down you will know, or no, this is dodgy. Like you will know. So be careful with your money. Be careful with your money. And do comment, do engage in the comment section. Tell us the kind of a house you like. Tell us, ask questions. We can try, as much as you're not expect, we can try to like throw things around and maybe shed some light on what you're asking. So do comment, do share, and yeah, tell your people to come here, because we're always talking about the kind of houses we want. So tell your people to come here and tell us the houses they want.
Yeah, let's hear those ambitions, and let's just try to help each other as to how we can plan before we get to be able to buy those houses. And speaking about Tabayedi website, like I said, these people are getting smart. There's people who can really create a website, an email, and all those things that we are looking for. They can really take their time to make those things. They look legit in all aspects. When you get to check, the email is intact. About Romela email, it's intact. About phone like the office number. Like there are those scammers out there who are able to do those kind of things. So you just really need to be careful. You just need to be careful when you are going to buy a house. Just make sure that, like, I usually have this conversation with my friends. It is really important to buy the law being referred by someone who's close to you. Because at least by then you do have insurance, or okay, this person, you trust them, and if they say they bought something by a guy from mama, it also gives you kind of insurance. And also before you also need to do your own research, right? But then your research either substantiated by what your friend is saying to you or referencing you, like it becomes even better. You also get to feel confident that you are taking your money to the right people. So the scams, they because I've seen Tinder swindlers. Like that guy's a genius. I don't know if you've seen that.
I saw Tinder swindler, and there's this other one. This is a free promo. There's Inventing Anna. Guys, you need to watch that. And I promise your life will change after watching Inventing Anna, because that girl went to America with legit nothing, and she managed to scam the biggest banks ever by just her name. So people can call you being confident and all, and then they sell you a dream. There's nothing that's gonna save your life than research. Even if you trust me, Georgie, make your own research, Georgie. Ask around, go on to the internet. Like one thing about us, we're always waiting for someone to plug us. Don't wait for that plug. Even if I plug you, go deeper and search for the things you know they're gonna stand out for you. Guys, people are working overtime out there. And honestly, I don't blame them. It's their hustle. I blame you if you fall for that, because why were you not researching? But please, guys, like, don't be careless. Like, pull out all the stops. Even if you have to call their bosses to verify, do that. It's your money. Like, it's very important to protect your money. Because I'm a scammer, obviously. But do research on me.
And funny enough, I'm still looking for accommodation. So I call this. They refer me to this other service provider, right? Then bumper number when I call the person because they told me to look for Sianda, right? I call the number. I'm saying that I'm looking for Sianda, and the person is like, no, Sianda is here, but I can assist you. Immediately I hung up my phone. Like immediately, I didn't even want to, juggle around. I just immediately hung up my phone. I call again. the same person is still answering the phone. I was like, where is Sianda? Sianda is still busy, blah, 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 blah. He will call you back. But then if it's agent, let me help you. I was like, hey, like, trust you conscious guys. Like, let's all, like, Mudimo has made us in a very beautiful way. There's always that alert will always, talk to you to say, there's something that's fishy, and just try to not be a negligent of that. So just try to listen to your conscience sometimes, or hey, more something it's off. So,
and
like
it's gonna click. It will never disappoint you. Once you get on that phone call, strong, okay, this is shady. Don't ignore that. Especially my students right now, it's stressful. You're looking for accommodation. You desperate. And stuff. As much as only desperate, you take your time. Take your time.
And I just need to put more emphasis on this factor. There's people sometimes who you're gonna call and they're gonna claim or they are the agent, right? And whenever you get to see, you get to say you want to see the house, they're gonna be telling you stuff like, hey, I'm quite busy, it's kind of impossible to view the place right now, but then the house is in demand, and since you wanted the house, deposit the 50,000. Do not pay for something that you did not see. Do not pay for something that you did not see. Like, never, never, ever make that mistake. You see something online and then they tell you, deposit the 50,000 so that we can secure the house for you. Then they stop the other buyers. That's a scam. That's a scam. Like, I remember last week I was with a friend of mine. There's a friend of his. Namuchare unyago zebaware. Namuchare amnyakishe someone who can trace the number. Almost came in at that time. That guy, he paid for something online. He paid for a car. Like, imagine having to buy a car online. He bought a car online, and right now when he tries to contact the people, they are nowhere to be found. And I'm telling you, you can go to the police wherever. You will never be able to trace those guys. I mean, unless if you are one of the lucky ones. Like, those guys, they make sure they remain untraceable. And imagine having to spend it's off your savings, like your hard work, like always save, all sure, you know what, this one I'm going to buy this thing that really means this much to me, only to find no what donate or donate.
Yeah, and they are smart. These people, Asham, I love them so much. Scammers are smart guys. They can never give you their account number. They will never. It's always gonna be instant cash, yako Standard Bank. It's always gonna be cash send yako apps le Capitec. Like, those untraceable things. Obviously, really proof you actually, it's just a phone number. It's just a phone number. So look at your banking, need to try to lay the fraud charges and whatnot. It's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out because you sent it to someone you just exchanged money. And the way those people are so desperate, if you are available for a viewing of the house and they're giving you the run around, usually they'll say, I'll just send you the pictures. Mara Mujo available to come at any day and you're not to opt for pictures. I say, take a breather or later, because no, why are you going to send the picture and I'm clearly telling you I'm available. Smaller things.
Yeah, hence WhatsApp is really not ideal, because that's where they get you. Got picture, that's where they will get you. But then if you're working, having to do the actual thing, having to see the actual thing, You wouldn't have to bother about someone even to tell you about the pictures and stuff. So just be careful, guys, because your people out there are really depressed because they've lost so much fortune that they've spent a lot of time saving for. So let me just remind you, our viewers, that it's 8 o'clock right now, and you are listening to Bay Waves Radio, the radio show that is brought to you by African youth that came together to build a better Africa for the future generations. So make sure that you share our lives, make sure that you invite your people, make sure that you engage with us in the comment sections, so that we can try to enlighten each other about these issues that we are talking about on the show. So right now we're gonna transition to from buying to actually we're going to distinguish or which one is really good for a person, and we transition into having to own or to rent a property. Like for Enatakajo, which one do you really think it's ideal for you, rent or own?
Own. I definitely want to own a property. I really just want to be in the rurals. It's less admin in the rurals. Just yaga Khoshi George Khoshi George is like, okay, you'll pay 1.5 and then you sign, you do this, boom, you own a stand. The other things, like the downfall of it, I think, is having to build, because you're still gonna pay a lot of money. You start doing fencing, blah blah blah. Like it's a lot of admin compared to just renting out or buying like this 1.5 million house go senting. But I definitely wanna own a house.
Definitely. I think also for me, owning it's really ideal, and of which it brings us to having to look at the advantages and the disadvantage of having to own a house as also of renting. And before I go into that, yesterday I was watching this. I think actually it's not really much of a documentary, it's like a blog. They showed this house for United States. As much as you'd like to own a house, you'll be able to sustain. This house, it's said to be the biggest in the United States of America. Like it costs $500 million. Like imagine. And I was doing the conversions in our rents. This house, it cost us 7 billion. Imagine having to pop out 7 billion and having to build a house. Like this guy built the house from the ground. That's 7 billion. And right now he wants to sell because he cannot sustain. Imagine what's a 7 billion a worst case scenario South Africa. The worst case scenario Zuma can cost 240 million. Like that's a lot of money. Like country. So imagine 7 billion. At 7 billion imagine like that's how crazy, that's how like humongous that money is, like 30, imagine. So this guy took that amount of money and right now it's nearly completed, but then also fate this house, and also for no sustainer. No, he wants to sell it, and he's losing because he spent 500 like we spent $500 million to build that house, and he's selling it same price, and it has been on the market for a longest time. And imagine, we spent 10 years building this house, 10 full years. What a waste of time. Imagine, like, just when you have time, go to YouTube and Google California that cost $500 million. You'll see the house. Like, it's beautiful, it's nice. When you look at it, like, it has, actually for me, I feel like it has unnecessary stuff, but then it's beautiful, honestly. I've never seen or had in my life a house that another club inside. Imagine having to have a club in your own house, and a club it accommodates more than 1,000 people. So you can imagine how big it is, and it has 21 bedrooms, 42 bathrooms. Like, when I come to 21, the bathrooms are 42. Why? Like,
was
why?
he trying to build a house, a home, or was he trying to build a hotel?
It's a home. He said he wanted to build a home for a family, and I saw that guy now stressed, like, even the fiance because she wanted nothing to do with the madness. Like, it has everything, it's unnecessary going to find it there. Imagine having to have to club, like we said, club yeah, like,
not even Taveniana, a whole club.
Like, we understand, or it's an urban area, but then a club, like, really a club. What do you want a club for? Like, inside your house, like. And I'm just asking myself, why would you want to accommodate for 12,000, more than 1,000 people in your home?
Like,
I mean,
okay, let's say he finished the house. No? Let's say the house is finished, the club is up and running. Maintenance costs, like, how maintenance costs. If the pipe is best, can you imagine the pumping system in that house? It's probably going to still cost more. I mean, realistic, guys. Like, let's be realistic. Even if you do get a stand, go right. Don't try to play yourself. Don't. Because you're gonna finish building the house. You're gonna furniture it and all. But you must. It still must not take. I feel like a home should not be taking money away from you.
Exactly.
Is not adding to them. Is not adding to the value. Like, if you constantly have to fix something, no, man, I'm definitely wasting my money here. It's just flushing my money down the drain. So even if you do buy a house, let it be a house that's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg to maintain. Let it not be a home that's gonna constantly need maintenance all the time. You have to pay for this. You have to. Let it not be a broken home, if I can use that word. But let it not be a broken home. Not broken in that way, but just a broken home where you're constantly fixing, you're constantly painting. As if you love another school. Buy or build a house that you can actually sustain. After 5 years, I'm done with the house. It's finished, it's fenced, it's everything. And then that's it. George.
Like, that's true, because I saw a lot of things in that house that were really, really, really nice, but unnecessary at the same time. Because, I mean, can you hear me? Wangwa? Okay, I think we lost Takatsu there, but then she's gonna fix her stuff and she'll be back with us. So I was saying, that are unnecessary, and they just gonna put a financial strain on. Never do that, because at the end of the day, it's you who's gonna suffer. Because as much as we want nice things, we still want to have finances that are, probably like properly, and then not be able to live your life properly. So make sure that for that house, if you thought it has all the things that like.
Yeah, I have comments from the floor. Can you hear me, George? Can you hear me? Am I back?
Yeah, you are. I think my connection just did the satanic things there. So I'm back. I can also hear you.
Okay, I have comments from the floor.
Yeah.
Matala McDonald are mo ke tswang o ka swetse Stan. Ke nahana o go borekwa. Okay. Are mo ena tswang o ka swetse Stan. I just don't know. I don't know, guys. Like Rai space is fedile. Like, guys, is it possible for space is fair? Like, I'm gonna ask me.
I feel like there's a lot of land to go, man. Like Mashimo teaching, like there's a lot. I feel like there's certain places where Mashimo Marabale mo Namutunor mo Mugaga. I feel like we they need to try to look more into social development, because having to build houses also bring investors to say there's a lot of people, let's build 1 2 3, people are going to get jobs. So so do we have another comment, or that's the only one that we have?
Happiness Run to other, you can request a license number from your estate agent to verify them. And to verify the agency, request their FFC, which is their operating license, and verify with the EAAB, which is the Estate Agent Affairs Bond. Guys, very much important. Write this down. Like you request a license number, and then you request a license number from the estate agent, and then you request their FFC, which is the operating license, and then you verify with their board, which is the estate agent affairs board. Is it bond or board? Happiness. Yeah, and then she's also saying owning over renting. One is an investment while the other is an ongoing liability with no financial gain, and that is the gospel. Rather own a house, rather own, even if it's a flat, rather own than kupatela rent. Honest guys, rent na ke hweditse sebaka gabotse guys, ke gopela le mrekeleng e nngwe.
That's true. I just like to thank the audience that's engaging with us in the comment section. I just keep on bringing those comments coming in, and Kakora to 9, we're gonna be closing in the comment section. But just drop all your comments there. We'll get to go through them after the show if it's a comment that came in after we've closed. So talking about what happiness from our comment section just stated, let me just go through the advantages of having to own a house, because she did say it's an asset, it's a liability. So let's go more in detail so that we can try to understand what it is. So according to Property 24 Net, they gave me this important points to say the importance, the advantages of having to own a property is that the value of home will always appreciate over time, and if you decide to sell, you can always earn profit from that sale. The point that that has been stated in the comment section, because our country, unlike koloi we regulate 200,000. We register 50,000 in 10 years to come, but then unlike a house, it actually gains value. Out there, it gets to, appreciate, and that's why we get to say it's an investment rather than, a liability. So owning it's more ideal for now. We're gonna hear already the advantages of rent game, but then I'm still, trapped in the owning department like Tahajo. So the second point that they go to state Kore, when you buy a house, it becomes your legal property, which allows you greater freedom in its use without restriction of any landlord. Like our I like on dollar music so but then all of you like because they have the legal. I'm not really sure it's a legal thing, because I know for sure certain locations, especially in the urban areas, always knowledge on. But then I'm just saying, it's just one of those freedoms that you get to have. Like there's a lot of things that you get to have freedom to in your own property that you own, that you have bought with your money. So that's one of the advantages of having to own a property. So another one that they stated, Kore, being a homeowner allows you to have a creative control of your property. You can alter the property, including the decor changes, landscaping, renovations, and make it in a way that it suits your style. Tajo ugas own room kai, then landlord data ya aluminium door. Like you cannot do that. It's not your property, as much as you love aluminium door or whatever that you think of, putting in that place, or it looking nice. You cannot do that. It's not your property, and you do not have the rights to change the landscape or the interior design or whatsoever. So you do not have the privileges to do that. So that's just one of the advantages of having to own your own house. We see it December every time. Like every time I know, usually when I go home got December, I'll find I did it last time also. So that's just one of those privileges that like you just get to play around with your house and just do all the nice things that you get to think of creatively. So that's just one of the advantages, and it's really a good thing. So just having one day you can rent a place here, or you can see what agamo, like it doesn't have a sense of life, but then you can just like you can't do anything about it because it's not yours, right? So the last point they stated about the advantages of having to own a property is that you having you have the option of buying to rent, which enables a homeowner to generate income from renting out the property, right? And what it basically means for when you have the legal rights of having to own a certain property, you can generate an income render out and instead of having to pay those levies, instead of paying those monthly installments, utilize that rent to pay all those things, then you don't have to touch a cent from your own pocket. So those are just one of the advantages of having to own a house, because on I know I remember I was staying in Pretoria West, like our landlord was literally like he bought that house, but then the 50% of the amount that was remaining on that house, he was paying it via the rent that we were paying. And even though he was using that money, he was still able to earn a certain, profit from that. And in, not really in a long run, actually, in few years he will be done and all that money will be going to him. So it is really an investment to have to own a property. So the disadvantage is not, I don't know, do you believe or there's any disadvantages of having to own a house? I don't think there is for me. I feel like, okay, factually they are there, but then I don't feel like, come on. There are things that you can deal with.
They can't be as severe as renting out a place. With renting, I get when you move in, you pay a deposit. That's just saying, I'm not gonna break anything, and if I don't break anything, you bring back my money. Guys, they will try by all means to not give you your money. By all means. I paid a deposit when I was still a student, and then they found the chair that I've been reporting to them that it has stains and is not working. They found it when I was moving out because, I'm moving out. They have to come check if their things are still in place. And they're like, no, this chair is broken and it has stains on it. Okay, I told you this chair is broken. I've been reporting it over and over, but you just didn't give it any attention. Now you have to give me my deposit back, and then you say, you can't because the chair is broken. So it's one of those things. Even as Malanyana stain on the wall, they'll come and say, Mara, you didn't find this wall like that. It's just a lot of things. Even if the sofa. No one's gonna come and say pay for this thing. It's like you have more freedom with owning a house than renting a house. And I love this thing, and I don't think when more restaurant you can rent that room out. That is illegal. You can't even rent. Like even if you are in a 2-bedroom commune or whatever, you can't rent out the extra room. You can't, because it's not your place. So you restrict in a lot of things. You restrict. But owning a house, I can open a tavern. Complain tavern. I can do whatever. So the disadvantage is really, they just, you can say, for me, they're not that interesting.
Okay, let's hear what Property 24 has to say, because they did, and to show they're really not there, they just stated two. And let me take you through them, because they're saying that the disadvantage of having to own a house is that there are additional costs of home ownership, and this usually includes rates, tax, insurance, maintenance, for which the homeowner is responsible for. I mean, like, the responsibility, adulthood, those things will always be there wherever you go. I mean, like, you're always going to pay. I mean, in terms of Tawedi Levy, they cannot state something like that, because like Taraju said, we're not like, you don't have to worry about those kind of stuff, right? So they're stating it out there as a disadvantage for the people who are staying in urban areas. But I mean, like, if you have took a conscious decision or go do la Santini, go do la Midrand, go do la Centurion, you know all those things are going to be there, and surely you're gonna make sure they are accommodated in your budget. So I don't think it's much of a stress or much of a disadvantage, because those things, as you grow and as you go to certain locations, they will always be part of your life. And so another point that they go to state is that a homeowner runs the risk of not making any profit through the resale. And what they mean, say you are not regan for 1 million, right? There is a risk, the value on a fast. Like we said before that, and a house is an investment because value on a appreciate. But then there's instances where the value of the house gets to go down. For example, during COVID, I wish I would make very low. I'll be owning a lot of properties right now, like, honestly, because there was a lot of houses sale, or they were so outstanding, like beautiful, all things that you want in a house, they are there. And when you got to check the value of the house at that time, the value was really, really ridiculous. To think, Mola, when they say the price is too good to be truth, like you have to believe it. COVID, the people are hungry, people are no longer working. That's the prices that their houses are within at that time. So there are instances where a house can lose a value, but then realistically speaking, I don't think COVID they happen, because we had COVID then they pick up, but their values were stable. So it's something that you cannot really get to worry about, because it's not like value on it it will stay there. No, it won't stay there. As the economy gets to readjust, it also gets to pick up and gets to gain the value that it's worth, or even more. So having to say a homeowner has a risk or lose a value, yeah, it's true. It's factual stats. You cannot argue with the numbers. You cannot argue with but again, the economists, when they say those things, they do exist, and we really did see them got COVID, and yeah, they're really there. But owning a home is ideal, man. I mean, there's less advantages to having to own a home. So it's 26 minutes past the hour 8, and you are still tuned in to Bay Waves. We just want to thank you for being here with us, and just make sure you are here with us each and every Tuesday, and make sure that you share our live airings with your people. And the comment section is going to close in a few minutes, and Takas will just get to check on those that are in right now, and then after a couple of minutes, Kakora to 9, we're gonna close our comment section. But then we really do appreciate you having to be here with us and engaging with us, and we really do encourage and ask of you, like we are really not doing this for our personal satisfactions, but then we're trying to build a better future for our continent. So make sure that you tune in and you invite your friends, right? And let's go to renting now, because I find this thing, as much as we get to think of it as something it's crazy, it's real. Before you can get to own a property, at some point of your life, you're going to rent. Like, it's part of life. You're going to rent. So let's just you think that of renting, I mean to say, do you think there's any, like, in your mind, a lot of check or advantage?
Your mic was muted. Your mic was muted. Can you just say what you were saying?
Okay, I was saying, what do you think there's anything that you can think of and say, or a advantage, rent the plague? Hey, can you think of any?
Guys, it's not easy parting with money every month.
Exactly, it always boils down to money.
It's not as much as you can. Like, we glamorize it. We try to glamorize it. So you get your own space. You like, you can do whatever. It's your space. It's your house. Mara, come on, and you have to part ways with that rent. You start thinking, oh no, Mara, guys, no, I need a house. I need a house. Honestly, the advantages I could be guys. Like, I don't see them. We're renting because we don't have houses in the suburbs. We're renting because of that. I don't think there's anyone who just opts for renting if they had a house or a family house who go big. Like those kids, it's very nice for them. You okay motho a ya Joburg a tseba gore o ya ka ntlong ya gabo. Do you understand? Like the only stress is there is just buying food, leading utilities. But then rent, like you get to save a lot if you're not paying rent, honestly.
That's true. And like the reality of the matter, before you can be able to, get to say you are affording to own a house, you are going to go through the stage of having to rent a place. So let's just get to go through the advantages that are being given by Property 24 to say take the advantage when you are renting out a place. And the first one, they say that as a tenant, there is the possibility of living in an area which you cannot afford to buy. Like wow, the Instagram picture say because that's something that ladies get to do sometimes, they get to do that. And you think, this person is living lavish, can't the name, and they just renting out a place. So Property 24 gets to look at it as an advantage. So what the front beach of Cape Town. Rent.
Yeah, it's nice because it's true. It gives you access to places that you can never afford to own. It does give you access to that. But I don't think there's anyone who wants to rent for the rest of their life. So if you're gonna be chasing Corona, you wanna leave go V&A, Waterfront, Cape Town. I get to how long are you gonna stay there? Like it's just a marketing tactic. Korea, come here. You can live here and then it's not gonna cost you much. Not really much of a big advantage. Yeah, you get to live in the city, you get to be closer to your big malls, you get to be closer to your restaurants, you get to be closer to you get an access to the inner circle of the city. Mara, it's not really sustainable. What happens if I lose my job then? What happens if I can't pay for that rent anymore? So yeah.
Yeah, because it gets to happen sometimes, or you cannot afford, because the rentage, those places, they are very, very expensive, right? So I wouldn't really recommend it as an advantage. Just say it's a thing, it's not an advantage.
Yeah.
So the second one that they go to state as so the second thing that they go to state about advantages of having to rent the quarry, renting a property allows more flexibility than having to own a home. This is ideal for those who could be faced with sudden change of locations due to work and all the likes. So I think that's true. That's true. Because the thing right now, market, right?
Yeah.
And market udula, for instance, say let's just say you're staying in Pretoria, then you get a job in Free State. I mean, having to move there, it wouldn't be an issue because you just need to move out. That's all you need to do. Unlike having to, but then still, man, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a disadvantage of having to own a house in Pretoria and having to move to Free State. It's not, because what you're living here is still yours and you're still gonna come back to it, right? So even though it allows you flexibility, it doesn't necessarily cancels out the fact that you should own a house. You can have a house and still be able to come back to it. So yeah, that's just one of the things.
I think renting out just gives you access to housing when you need it. But that does not necessarily mean always opt for renting because you're gonna get access to a house. But that's just the advantage of renting. It's just putting it out there for with renting. This is what you can get. You can be able to move from Cape Town and be able to rent out a place. Mara, as Josh has said, it does not cancel out if you have a house for Cape Town. If ever you wanna go back to Cape Town, you're not gonna rent out anything. You going back to your house. It's always gonna be there. It's always gonna be your house until you decide to sell it.
That's true. That's true. And I don't think having to say you're moving from one place to another. It's well, it's a good thing, but then, like you said, you did explain it very well. Or if you get to come back to that place, you don't have to rent anymore because you still have a property there, right? So the last advantage that they got to state, as a tenant, you do not get to maintain the property. All maintenance is for the homeowner.
No, but I paid for that.
Obviously,
I paid for that maintenance. My deposit money was for that maintenance.
Yeah, that's true. Because there should be a space for this. Because right now, unlike actually, let's put it nicely and say it just all depends on the location that you staying at. Because in the urbans, in the cities, wherever, like I still know a lot of rooms moilor but they don't pay those kind of things, double deposit and stuff. But I've seen what they getting into that kind of environment. Sometimes what was saying, they get to incorporate that.
George is frozen. So sorry about that.
Yeah, deposit. So actually, you do pay for me.
But with the maintenance thing, with paying for maintenance, I think as a business owner, you'd want to protect your assets.
Right now, you get to go to a 4,000. Takacho.
Wateka, I choose Wateka, please. Oh my gosh. But you back now. Wateka.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are back. You are back.
I think the devil is really fighting very hard, and we are about to finish the mandate of this show. And yeah, like I was saying, you still going to maintain the place even though you're renting it out through Chaladair deposit, because the landlord clever. You can just simply break and the next thing was a 4,000 now at deposit. I mean, like, until we breaking it doesn't even cost that much. But then they still gonna tell you you're not getting your money because you broke 1, 2, 3. So in a way, you really do maintain the place where you get to rent. Yeah, like I said, even though there's still those places like in the rural areas where you just get to rent without having to pay the deposit, or it's used for maintenance. So yeah.
But I think you still maintain the place even if usapadele deposit, because as a business person, you cannot just say George move in and then utlampa 100 randa. You probably moved in, even if utlopatela 100 randa, 50 randa is for maintenance, 50 randa is for renting the place out. Like, in a way, one way or the other, your maintenance money is included in the rent. Maybe not as deposit, but more renting. You'll find for opatela 1.80 without no deposit, yes, But if I let this person rent this room 1.8, 800 is definitely for maintenance. But what am I going to do? I'm going to mask it up as you're not going to pay any deposit. You just bring your stuff and move in. Because there's no business person who'd want another person in their business passing without paying for anything. One way or the other, you're maintaining that place. Maybe not directly, but you are maintaining the place.
That's true, Takazo, because you cannot run a business and not have a budget there, maintenance. Like you always need to make sure that you have that money and you're going to source it through Jonedi deposit or maybe through just within that chelete rent. So that's true. Of which the property 24 people, I hope they are watching us so that they can go revise their points. I hope some of their family members are in here. I hope they are watching us. Of which is why this show this show is it's important. I mean, like we get to highlight certain things that are out there, and sometimes they get to be, kind of misleading. And when we get to evaluate them, we get to see, okay, it's not done this way, it's done this way, right? We have 5 minutes remaining to close the comment section. So if you do have any comments, just drop them down below. And I just have to remind you, you are listening to Baywaves Radio, a show that is brought to you by African youth to build a better Africa for the future generation. So we are going to the last segment of having to rent out a property. We spoke about the advantages, and right now we're going to talk about the disadvantages, of which I've heard along our conversations as we were talking about this thing. I feel like there's a lot of disadvantages, but like I said, as much as we all like to own properties one day, we sometimes just have to work with what we have right now and just rent out. And even when you rent out, you're gonna see what there's a lot of money that's going out and never returned, but because of your situation, you just have to live with that, right? Property 24 says that the disadvantages of having to rent, a tenant is bound by the rules of the lease agreement, which can impact the freedom to use or renovate the property. We spoke about this, or Ugas not so what he said, right? In a aluminum door, Ereginche, Nyagoa, Mamazala, Walsenke, one Rasage. You cannot do that. It's not your property. You do not have the legal ownership of that place. So you cannot just do as you like. And I think in the lease agreements or the contracts that you get to have with your landlords, such things are stipulated, or you cannot do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? So that's just one of the disadvantages. As much as you like to make you'd like to do a makeover of the place or you're staying in, and get to change certain things, you just cannot, because it is not yours. And you might leave tomorrow, and what if the next person who comes in doesn't like whatever that you put there? So it's a cost for the landlord to have it, to put it the way it will attract the majority of tenants. So that's just one of the disadvantages. So another disadvantage, you cannot make what does it say? It says that you cannot make changes to a rented property without the consent of the homeowner, of which is the same. You cannot, renovate and stuff. When they say consent, maybe they talk in an instance where some property owners might allow looking at the fact that it might benefit them. For instance, if you are to bring an aluminum door, I mean, like, who wouldn't want to have that? So, but what is stating, or you need to have consent to say, I want to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? So even though that's going to come out of your pocket, I correct when now the one who says that they want to change 1, 2, 3. So it's gonna come out of your own pocket, and you're still going to pay rent. Like, that's a given, right? And another one, it says that renting offers no wealth creation or return of investment. Something that we've been preaching for a pretty long time now throughout the show, to say, if you are renter, you actually making an investment for another person. Like, they've invested in that property, and the income that they get to have from that, it's an investment for them. So in a way, they're generating money through you, they're generating wealth out of you, whereas all you do is to give, to give to them. And I have to be honest, you shouldn't feel bad to say you pay somebody's bill, or you go in someone's wealth, because sometimes situation I do mail, you just need to rent, and you just need to pay, and grow the wealth of somebody. Because I remember they once asked us, like, how many employees do you think a bank has? And we were like,
George, what teacher?
a couple of thousands, because I don't think a bank can hire over millions and stuff. Hello, am I still audible? Am I still audible, Tazo?
Yeah, you are back.
Oh, okay. So, like I was saying, we once was asked already, how many employees do you think a bank has? And we said thousands, and the person said to us, it's actually millions, because if you are to take a loan or buy a house or a car through the bank, you are actually automatically their employee, because you're generating money for them. And he was like, the bank actually has millions and millions of employees, because there's a lot of people who get to wake up in the morning, go to work, so that they can, at the end of the month, give certain portion of their salaries to the bank. But in life, like, sometimes we just have to live like that. If you cannot afford the luxury of having to buy things cash, I mean, we all want to buy deliver cash, and then sometimes the situation doesn't allow. Sometimes it's just not having patience, which I think is something that I also have. I don't think nga save chelete for 20 years to get to cash. I can't. I cannot do it. I don't think I'll do that. Honestly, I can't. So that's the point. Our having to rent offers no wealth creation and return of investment, of which is a fair point. And the last point they got to state here, got it, there is no guarantee. Our rent up, like, there is no guarantee or the lease will be renewed when it expires. And it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. You get to be so comfortable in a place, then the next thing, like the landlord didn't allow sometimes, but then because you are a tenant, you're generating money for them. Sometimes we're not clear, but then when your lease agreement gets to tenure on a fella, they don't renew it, because property is always in demand, and they're just gonna refuse, because they are the property owners. You cannot force them to renew your contract under any condition. because the property one at the end of the day. So but why they still going to rent for pretty long? We have to make sure everybody best friend the lady landlord, right? Yeah, you need to make sure of that, or you are always in their good books, because if you're not, you're gonna have a problem, especially when it comes to rules. Like you don't, because there's those landlords, let's say, they always like this behind you, and you don't want that kind of a thing, right? So just make sure that you're in the good books, so that if your lease happens to be expires, the landlord can just simply renew it for you. So that was the last point from property 24 with regard to the disadvantages of having to rent out a place, right? And it just wraps up the conversation that we were having today around having to own a property, having to buy one, and also having to transition into not affording to buy and resorting to rent. So I hope we touched base on the basics, of which to some people may not be basics. Hence, we just really got to bring what we have researched to you, to just try to highlight you, to try to uh try to make sure you avoid being scammed by people for the money that you have worked so hard for. So we really hope we will work on it, right, Taka, so that we get to bring someone who's a professional about these things, but on the show, so that they can give more details. There's a lot of details that we might have missed that are really important in having to look out for. So we did get to put a disclaimer out there that we are not professionals, but then we know we just members of the community who really do care. So we just got to bring whatever that we had to you, but then we're just gonna make sure that we bring someone who's a professional, so that they get to enlighten you about other points that we might have missed. And it's 9 minutes to 9 o'clock, and you still tuned into Bayways Radio, and we just really want to mention, Lore, our comment section is closed, but then if you have anything to say, you can just any question or any query, we'll get you go through it, and we'll get you relay the answers to you, so that you can be helped in any way possible. I just want to say, Tagato, let me, before I close the show, like, what is it that you'd like to, advise, or anything that you'd like to say to our audience with regard to the conversation that we had today?
Don't get scammed, guys. Honestly, like this is serious. This is so serious. Do not get scammed. Do not fall for things that do not make sense. Take your time to do your research. Take your time to ask around. Take your time to get as much information as you can. In the comments section, we did Happiness dropped information about how you can verify an agent. Please don't be lazy to do that. Don't be lazy to do that. Don't just take a word of mouth recommendation and just roll with it. You're gonna lose your money, and there's only two places where you're gonna end up. You're either gonna end up killing yourself, you're gonna end up in the mental ward. So do yourself a favor and try to avoid getting swindled. Number two, do what's best for you. If renting is an option for you, do rent. If buying a house is too much for you, then maybe do like save to buy the house that you want. And yeah, I know we especially our generation, we rush to move out of our homes because due to certain reasons. But if your reasons are not too severe, try staying at home. You're gonna save much more money staying at home than rente having to pay like a lot of money. If you can stay at home, do stay at home and save that money to like buy your own property. There's nothing as cute as having a property. So try doing that. And yeah, I'm just gonna repeat this, guys, don't get scammed.
That's the most important one. Like it is, like it's real. Like you can literally lose your mind because someone else just took, a fortune that you spend a lot of time, hard work, to gather. So just like that's the most important one. So thank you for those important points, Takato. And I just want to say, guys, like know your situation, know your finances, right? We got to speak about when we started the show, already know your budget before you can just get to jump on anything. Do not put yourself in a situation where you paying for something and you're not able to live your life properly because you're paying so much money for something. Like we all need nicer things in order to live. We also need to enjoy your remunerations from work. So have a balance, right? Have a balance between having to pay certain things and also having to provide for yourself. So if you are to buy a house, make sure that you really do afford that house. And if you are able to buy it cash, just buy it cash, man, and save yourself the rest. But then if you cannot buy the house cash, make a balance between paying that house and making a living so that Christmas because we're not patelang. You chose to be a parent, you need to be responsible. It's not their problem, right? So you just need to make sure that your responsibilities are balanced. And the last one, yeah, scam. Make sure, like, make sure, guys, make let's all be your best friend. If it says no, stick with it.
Yeah.
Stick with it and look elsewhere. Ska, don't try to take any rash decisions and end up uh, in situations they're gonna result you having to be in or psychiatric or we don't want to be do not put people in a situation now where they are unable to read your obituary or write to Janet. Pelo, we cannot say Tajo with the hang because from Chelete, Azanga research, we don't want to get to those kind of situations. So just make sure that you're careful. And one last thing that I want to mention, don't put pressure on yourself. Peer pressure are necessary. I cannot see Tahato Arigile Tahaju. Then I get to put myself in debts trying to, match the living standard of someone else. Do not put yourself in such situation. Balance your things, know your financial state, and everything will come together in the designated time. So just take your time, put your things together without any pressure. So with